So let's talk for a little bit about how we might go about learning a tune, any tune. Um, I'll take a familiar tune to most of you, Stella by Starlight. And what we want to do is, especially as solo pianists, we want to think of learning a tune like making a sculpture. If you're playing with a trio and you have a rhythm section, you can play a little bit more two-dimensionally. Like if you don't have the best left hand in the world, you can kind of get by. When you're playing solo piano, it's like a sculpture where you'll see the front, the head, you can walk around, see the ears, see the back of the head, the other ear. So and it has to stand without falling over. So there are more elements that are required of you to play solo piano in a complete way. First of all, let's take our melody. And we have to know that melody down cold. So basic way to do it, just play it without fussing with the rhythm. However we want to finger it, doesn't have to be particular. Something I like to do, just because it's kind of fun and a little bit nutty, is to take the pitches of that tune, Stella by Starlight, and play them all as quarter notes, take all the eighth notes out of them, take all the half notes out of them, and spontaneously move them into displaced octaves. So you've just made it into this pitch series, and you pick the octave, but try to keep doing it without stopping and without saying, oh, this would be a better choice than that. Just whatever works. There's no rule to this. You can do it any way you'd like. So that means that you really know the pitches and the intervals of this tune. All right. The next step would be to add a bit of a left hand. And this is a term that I'm going to be using a lot. It's what I call a short sound. For a bass note, a short sound. Like a pizzicato cello, not that's not what we want here. We want it just like you're petting a dog or something, just a little pip, Okay, that was a little bit of a double time. Here's in the normal tempo. So everything is light, mezzo piano, short. Not gooey, nothing like that. So, okay, now we have our two basic elements. We have our basic harmonic progression. We have our theme. And the better you know the theme, so pianists have a weird thing. They sit in front of the piano and they get a stereo image. Right hand is on the right side. Left hand is here. If you're out there and you're hearing a piano, it's kind of wrapping around you, but it also sounds like mono. It's coming from one place. So we have this wonderful right-left ability. And when you really know your melody, that's on your right channel, and you don't have to think about it. You can just play it without thinking about it. then you can start to get a little more creative with your left hand. So we're going to tip the balance knob from the right side to the left side. And what we're going to do is we're going to play the melody pretty much straight, and then we're going to start to play some looser, more improvised things with our left hand. Not necessarily walking a bass. I'm not talking about walking a bass. I'm talking about, you know, some kind of jazzy, loose sorts of things with the left hand. And you can start simply and get a little more complicated. But here's an example. Something like that. Now that's not something that some of you may be able to do right off the bat, but you could even start simpler than that. And maybe using more chord tones. Okay? So no stress, no legato, no snaking of fingers, just like super easy, like you're just playing, you know, a few little beats on a cymbal and a few little beats on a snare drum. Just very easy. This leads into contrapuntal playing, which will be discussed later. But now at this point, we know our melody cold. We can play it without really thinking about it. I might put a bracket here and say, what would it sound like in another key? If we really know a tune, we should be able to play it in another key. I happen to interpret this tune in C and as a ballad out of time. So rather than the typical, which is kind of the jazz 101 situation with that tune, I might play it this way. So it sounds very differently in that key. For me, it's more resonant and more in keeping with the character of the tune. So we're going to learn this tune. We've got the melody, we've got the basic harmonic thing. Then one of the most fun things, and also something that seems easy when you say it, but is actually not very easy when you try to do it, is we're going to start to do some experiments with this song. And my first experiment that I like to do is to improvise only in half and whole steps going up and down. So if you start on this note, the next note has to, that's an A, the next note has to be B flat, B, A flat, or G. And you're going to play continuous quarter notes with that short sound, quietly, and you're going to just sort of wander through the chord changes with the left hand, your left stereo knob, just marking the harmony with a short sound. And what this does is it kind of can help get you away from what scale goes with what chord. Because if you're only playing 2 intervals, there are no wrong notes. Absolutely, you can play anything, you know, but it's not necessarily wrong. You have this, you can fill it in that way. You have this, you can fill it in that way, right? So there are no wrong notes here. So we're just going to kind of meander through this tune with these, you know, and you can do it with one finger or all your fingers, but I don't want any legato accents. This is also a great way to practice making each note the same dynamic and length as the next note. So it's not, you know, no articulations here. Okay, so I'm going to play a chorus of Stella by Starlight, and I'm going to just use these half and whole steps up and down, and this is one possibility. I'm going to start on a D. Now, I'll bet money that when most of you try to do this, you are going to want to play thirds. You're going to want to jump to a chord tone. You're going to want to jump to a safe note. You might have noticed that when I was doing that, a lot of times I was not playing a note on a downbeat that was in a chord. Sometimes I was a half step away or a whole step away. I'll play another round of the same thing, and I'll play more maybe inside the chords. So that was a little safer. Try it both ways. So now we have, we're starting to add more and more elements. Now we can start thinking about chords. So the next logical step, in my opinion, would be to play only the chords that you would see in a fake book, which is basically 1 or 2 chords per bar, but with a rule. We have to have a rule for our experiment. We have to have a control. So the control in this case is you play a chord, a short chord, on the chords that are basically in the lead sheet. but the top voice, that fifth finger in the right hand, has to go up or down a half step or a whole step. So you can't stay here. That's another experiment, but that's not this experiment. So here would be an example of half step, whole step in the top voice with the basic changes. I wasn't going, which is, once again, another experiment. So now we're starting to say, okay, I'll roll back and I'll play with the very basic changes. Okay, different result, same experiment. These are the kinds of things that you want to be doing over and over again. And with the idea like, okay, if I try to do this for 10 minutes, I mean, what might happen? So now we're starting to expand how we're looking at this tune in a very thorough way. Okay? Other little experiments that I find that are useful is learning how to join your hands together. Then again, just my view, solo piano is about how your hands work together. If you're trying to play solo piano and the left hand is just doing, okay, that's one thing. I mean, not bad, but to me, it's not satisfying as solo piano. These are things that are on the list, but let's try a couple of ones that I think are fun. One might be what I call outside in. So you play 2 notes on the 5th fingers, and then you grab a chord in the middle that is made with both hands. So I have 2 notes on the outsides, and then I'm playing some chord in the middle that connects the 2 hands. Of course, you can reverse that. And I also encourage you, you noticed in the left hand that occasionally I would jump more than an octave. And this is something that we need to be able to do is, use this low end of the piano and jump. But let's try inside out. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the same idea, but just backwards. The way that these guys work together, and I'm going to be talking about contrapoint and moving voices at another moment, But the way that these guys work together is, to me, the secret to the whole ball of wax. So starting to learn how to play chords that combine both hands and playing our roots, this is a really important element. So instead of so I'm playing the melody and a nice loping bass note and then chords in the center. Actually a very good example of this would be for outside in would be something like Someday My Prince Will Come, because it's naturally that way. So you have this natural outside in. And you're also in a very gentle 3/4 rhythm. You know, that's going to be more complete sounding than or okay, that's all right, but that sounds like I need a rhythm section. That would be fine with a bass player and drummer, but does that really cut it as a solo piano player? So if we take this tune for a minute, let's use a simple introduction, and let's see if we can orchestrate this tune so that it starts small, gets bigger, and then gets smaller again. So at the biggest part of the tune, that was the highest point in the melody. I was at the lowest end of the bass. Or instead of up here. So thinking about, okay, we're starting in the middle, we're going out to the biggest point, and then we're coming back into the middle. This thing is an orchestra. It's a big band, it's a drum set. What makes it a drum set, and this I'll talk about more when we get into counterpoint, is what I call moving parts. So if we're just playing that's not a lot of rhythm. But if you start to have moving voices, just like a drummer would work their way around the drum kit, they would use the bass drum, they would use the snares, the cymbals, then you can start to get a lot more rhythm and sparkle going. So here's something with a lot of moving parts.